On the day of judgment, Prophet Ibrahim, Abraham, peace be upon him, will meet his father, Azar, the one who raised him. As Ibrahim looks at his father's face, he sees it covered in dust, darkened as if by smoke. At that moment, Ibrahim will say with sorrow, "O my father, did I not tell you not to disobey me?" Azar, now filled with regret, will respond, "Today, O Ibrahim, I will not disobey you." Ibrahim, deeply pained by his father's state, will then turn to Allah and plead, "O my Lord, you promised me that you would not disgrace me on the day when people are resurrected. What greater disgrace can there be than seeing my father in this state?" Through this plea, Ibrahim will express his anguish, saying, "O my Lord, you promised not to humiliate me in front of all creation on this day, and yet here I stand, seeing my father in such a humiliating condition." Disgrace for whom? It is Ibrahim's, Abraham, peace be upon him, own father, Azar, who will be among the inhabitants of hell. Allah, the Most High, will declare, "I have forbidden paradise to the disbelievers." Then it will be said to Ibrahim, "O Ibrahim, look beneath your feet." When Ibrahim looks down, he will see a blood-stained hyena. Shocked, he realizes that this creature is none other than his father, Azar, whom Allah has transformed into a blood-stained hyena. Out of disgust, Ibrahim will turn away. The hyena will then be seized by its legs and thrown into the fire. Imagine this scene. Allah transformed Azar into this state so that Ibrahim would not grieve over him, nor feel ashamed in front of the multitudes of people seeing his father cast into the hellfire. In this form, Azar becomes unrecognizable, no longer Ibrahim's father, but merely a creature deserving of its fate. But why? Why did this happen to Ibrahim's father? What is the story behind all this? Why is Azar, the father of Prophet Ibrahim, in hellfire, despite Ibrahim being the Khalil of Allah? Do you know what it means to be Khalilullah, the friend of Allah? It is the highest degree of friendship, a bond of unmatched closeness and love between Allah and His servant. So, what made Ibrahim deserving of this honor? How was he born? Where did he live? And what events unfolded between him and his father? Today's story is about Prophet Ibrahim, Abraham, peace be upon him, his life, his trials, and his extraordinary relationship with Allah. Peace and blessings be upon you all. May Allah grant you paradise as your eternal home and bless you always. How are you doing? I hope you're well and everything is going fine. In today's story, we'll talk about Prophet Ibrahim, Abraham, peace be upon him. His story is remarkably long and filled with profound events. One of his greatest titles is Khalil ar-Rahman, the friend of the Most Merciful. If you hear his full story, you'll understand why he was given such an honored title. But before diving into his life, it's essential to understand, what was the state of the world at that time? What religion was dominant back then? What did the map of the world look like? And who ruled it? After the great flood of Prophet Noah, peace be upon him, humanity spread across the earth, originating from Noah's 4 sons. These sons became the ancestors of all human beings to this day. However, during that era, the dominant lineage was that of Sam, Shem, peace be upon him, known as the Semites. From the descendants of Sam came powerful nations such as the people of Ad, the people of Thamud, the Akkadians. These were mighty civilizations, and they held immense power and influence over the earth. In particular, the Akkadians emerged as one of the dominant groups, known for their idolatrous practices. They worshipped the celestial bodies, the stars, the planets, the sun, and the moon. In fact, they even crafted idols on earth to represent these heavenly objects, believing they could draw closer to them through worship. This was the dominant religion of the time. The Akkadians, on the other hand, were based in Iraq, which served as the center of their power and influence. They were an extraordinarily strong people, ruling the land through their authority and unmatched strength. They achieved significant advancements, particularly in astronomy engineering. The Akkadians were renowned for their scientists, astronomers, and engineers, who were remarkably advanced and knowledgeable for their time. However, as the descendants of Sam, Shem, rose to become the leaders and dominant powers of the earth, a man emerged who despised this reality and became consumed by his jealousy. This man was enormous in stature, blessed with sharp intelligence and cunning diplomacy. He was articulate, persuasive, and terrifyingly strategic. This man came from the lineage of Ham, and his name was Nimrod. Yes, Nimrod, the name we often associate with a mighty tyrant and oppressor. But his story is far deeper and more complex than we often realize. The name Nimrod is often associated with evil, cruelty, and tyranny. However, the truth is that Nimrod was an incredibly intelligent man. Using his cunning and strategic mind, he managed to persuade and rally people to his cause. He was an eloquent orator, charismatic and strong, qualities that made people admire and follow him. With his influence, Nimrod succeeded in mobilizing numerous Bedouin tribes to fight alongside him. The Bedouins of that era were known for their wild and untamed nature, making them fierce allies. Soon, fierce battles erupted between Nimrod and the Akkadians, whose center of power was in Iraq, specifically the region of Babylon. Nimrod, however, was savagely brutal. It is said that he even consumed human flesh, and his followers were so devoted to him that they would sacrifice their very lives for his cause. Eventually, Nimrod emerged victorious, defeating the Akkadians and claiming all of Iraq as his own, including the land of Babylon. At this point, Nimrod turned his attention to the Semitic descendants scattered across the earth. His goal was clear: to eradicate the descendants of Sam, Shem, peace be upon him, wherever they could be found. One of the regions he targeted was the kingdom of the Arabs. In Yemen, the inhabitants were also descendants of the Semitic people. Nimrod launched an attack on Najd, where he killed the king of the Arabs and enslaved many of the women and children from the region. According to some accounts from the children of Israel, the descendants of Jacob, among the captives taken at that time, was Azar, the father of Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him. Azar was still a young boy, or perhaps just a youth. Nimrod spared his life and instead took him as one of the captives. Azar was brought to a temple of idols, where he was forced to serve as a caretaker. His tasks included cleaning the idols, arranging them, maintaining the temple, and preparing it for worship. With each conquest, Nimrod's empire expanded further and further until it seemed as though he ruled the entire world. No one dared to challenge his power or defy his authority. At this point, everyone submitted to Nimrod's rule. It became clear to all that this man had managed to dominate the earth completely. While some regions remained under the rule of local leaders, these rulers owed full allegiance to Nimrod. Nimrod ruled with an iron fist, and no ruler in any region dared to defy him or challenge his authority. Nimrod made his demands clear. If you resist me, I will destroy you and wipe out your rule completely. This ruthless strategy is how Nimrod dominated the world. Now, ruling even a single region in those ancient times was a monumental task. So how could someone govern the entire world? After all, there was no technology back then. No phones, computers, or administrative systems like ministries to help organize and manage vast territories. Yet Nimrod's brilliance lay in his unprecedented solution. He devised a system no one had ever thought of before. Every region, tribe, city, and kingdom under his rule was ordered to deliver all their provisions, crops, gold, and wealth directly to him. These resources were collected and brought to Nimrod's palace, where they were stored. Anyone who wanted access to food, wealth, or any other resource had to come to Nimrod personally to receive it. Through this ingenious system, Nimrod ensured that he controlled everything, from food to wealth to absolute power. All provisions were under Nimrod's absolute control. If anyone needed food, wealth, or any blessing, they had to come to Nimrod personally and ask for it. But there was a price. Nimrod would demand a specific act of worship or a service to be performed in return. Through this cunning system, Nimrod ensured that everyone became dependent on him. No one could challenge his rule because he controlled everything: the food, the drink, and all the wealth. Nimrod would say, "If you want prosperity and sustenance, come to me and worship me. I am the one who can provide for you." With this strategy, Nimrod ruled the entire world, as people had no choice but to submit to him. Even armies, which were meant to protect and fight, were tied to him. Their leaders would say, "We cannot rebel against Nimrod. He holds all our food, drink, and sustenance in his hands." In this way, Nimrod achieved absolute dominance. But despite his unmatched intelligence and power, rulership always belongs to Allah alone. Nimrod, with all his cunning and control, did not realize that there was a man, a descendant of Sam, Shem, who would rise in the future. This man would not be an ordinary person. He would be the one chosen by Allah to destroy Nimrod's empire and guide humanity back to the truth. A man, born from the lineage of an idol worshipper, would ultimately rise to destroy Nimrod's kingdom entirely. We've now seen this darker side of Nimrod, the tyrant who controlled the entire world with his oppression and cunning. Grab something to eat, and don't forget to follow me on all social media platforms. Search for Ruhaniya, and I'll pop up right away, inshallah. Now let's continue the story. Azar, the father of the Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, lived under Nimrod's rule. At that time, Azar worked as an idol maker and a servant of the temples where the idols were kept and worshipped. Nimrod, as we know, was a man of absolute power and control. He monopolized all resources, food, wealth, and provisions. If anyone wanted to survive, they had to bow before Nimrod, worship him, and serve him in some way. Only then would he grant them a portion of what they needed. This oppressive system led to widespread poverty and suffering. People struggled to find food, and hunger consumed the society. The lower classes suffered the most, living in despair and complete dependence on Nimrod's handouts. Among those affected by this harsh reality was Azar, the father of Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him. He served as a caretaker of the idols during a time when idolatry and injustice dominated the world. In a society steeped in polytheism, idols were placed above everything, and the true worship of Allah, the one God, had been forgotten. Azar was an ordinary man, with simple dreams and ambitions. Like anyone else, he wanted to start a family and live a dignified life. However, his job as a caretaker of idols did not provide enough to sustain his needs. To improve his situation, Azar decided to start a small project related to his work. He began crafting small idols by hand and selling them to people, hoping to earn a little more income. Gradually, this small venture brought him some financial stability, and he was able to get married and start a family. Not long after the marriage, his wife gave him joyful news. She was pregnant. The couple was overjoyed and chose to keep this news a secret, perhaps to surprise their loved ones later. But subhanallah, their happiness was short-lived. Suddenly, Nimrod's soldiers began sweeping through the kingdom, inspecting homes and pulling out every pregnant woman they found. These women were taken to prisons, and every newborn child was seized. The people were terrified and confused. What was happening? What was the crime of these innocent women, and why were their children being taken away? How could a pregnant woman be dragged from her home and imprisoned just because she was carrying a child? And what crime had these innocent infants committed to be taken away and disappear without a trace? But there was a reason behind this madness. Nimrod had seen a terrifying vision in his dream. In the dream, he was told, "A boy will be born from the descendants of a captive you took from the Arab kingdom. This boy will be born in a specific year, month, and day, and he will be the cause of the downfall of Nimrod's reign." Nimrod woke up in terror and immediately summoned his priests and soothsayers. They interpreted the dream, saying, "This dream warns of a boy who will destroy your kingdom. The only way to prevent this is to kill every newborn male child born in that year." Without hesitation, Nimrod ordered his soldiers to search for every pregnant woman and imprison her. Any child born would be killed immediately. However, Azar's wife was fortunate. No one knew about her pregnancy, as she was still in its early stages. She kept her secret hidden, isolating herself at home, and avoided drawing any attention until the time of her delivery approached. One night, under the cover of darkness, when the world was still and silent, she secretly left the city. She made her way to a remote cave far from the city, where no one would see or hear her. There, all alone, she gave birth to her blessed child, Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him. After ensuring that her child was alive and healthy, she placed him gently in the cave. She carefully sealed the entrance to the cave, trusting Allah to protect him. Then, she quietly returned to the city, blending in as if nothing had happened. Her husband asked her, "What happened to you?" She grew frightened for her child Ibrahim, because she knew her husband Azar was a servant of the idols, a man of hardened heart and loyalty to Nimrod above all else. Indeed, idolatry often leads to injustice and makes the heart devoid of compassion. She feared that if he knew about the child, he might harm him or betray him to Nimrod. So she lied and said, "I gave birth, but the baby was stillborn. I left him there and buried him." Azar said nothing and let the matter drop. But her heart remained attached to her little one. As the days passed, she would sneak out quietly to the cave to check on Ibrahim. To her amazement, she found Ibrahim alive and growing, as if he was being cared for. The child appeared healthy and strong, with no sign of weakness or hunger. What surprised her even more was that Ibrahim survived without food or drink. By the will of Allah, Ibrahim would suck on his fingers, and miraculously, they provided him with enough nourishment. This was a divine miracle. Every time she opened the cave door to look at him, she found him alive, moving, and full of life. There were no signs of hunger, nor did he appear weak or frail. Overwhelmed with awe, she would close the cave door carefully and return home, her heart filled with both hope and fear. Each time his mother visited him in the cave, she was astonished to see how quickly he was growing. It is said that Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, grew in a month as much as a normal child would grow in an entire year. Subhanallah. This was a clear sign of Allah's divine power. When she looked at him at 1 month old, he appeared to be the size and strength of a 1-year-old child. As time passed, Ibrahim, peace be upon him, grew into a strong and healthy young boy, even though his age was still very tender. His mother would visit him from time to check on him, and every time, she was amazed at how rapidly he had grown. One night, when she came to see him, she was shocked when Ibrahim said to her, "Take me out of this place, I want to see the world." Although she was surprised, she agreed and took him out of the cave. As soon as Ibrahim stepped outside and gazed at the vast world around him, he began to contemplate deeply. He looked up at the heavens and down at the earth, as though he was seeing what no other human eye could perceive. After a long time spent in deep reflection, Ibrahim said, "The one who created me, who provides for me, who feeds me and quenches my thirst, he is my Lord. There is no God but him." In that moment, Allah showed him the wonders of the heavens and the earth, filling his heart with certainty and faith. As Allah mentions in the Quran, "And thus we showed Ibrahim the kingdom of the heavens and the earth." And so, to make him among those with firm conviction, Allah showed Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, the reasons and wisdom behind creation. He was shown how the heavens and the earth were created, and the purpose behind everything that exists. Through this revelation, Ibrahim, peace be upon him, understood that behind all of creation, there is a great and all-powerful Creator, Allah, the Almighty. After this profound realization, his mother took him back home. For the first time, Ibrahim, peace be upon him, met his father, Azar. Azar was overwhelmed with joy to see his son alive, as he had long believed that he had lost him. At this stage, Ibrahim was still a young boy, but he was very different from other children his age. Growing up, Ibrahim displayed signs of wisdom, rationality, and maturity. He could distinguish between right and wrong, and he was far more thoughtful and discerning than the children around him. From a young age, Ibrahim, peace be upon him, strongly rejected the worship of idols. he would mock the idols and express his disdain for them openly. Whenever his father Azar went out to sell the idols he made, Ibrahim would accompany him and sit beside him. As people approached to buy an idol, Ibrahim would say to them, "Buy something that can neither harm you nor benefit you." With this, he openly mocked the idols, knowing full well that they were nothing but lifeless objects. This behavior began to affect his father's business, as people became hesitant to buy the idols. Sometimes when someone came to purchase an idol, Ibrahim, peace be upon him, would ask, "Does this idol benefit you?" The buyer would reply, "Yes, it does." At that point, Ibrahim would break a piece of the idol and say, "If it could benefit you, why couldn't it protect itself? How can it help you when it cannot even save itself?" With these words, Ibrahim, peace be upon him, exposed the uselessness of the idols. He was just a young boy among his people, but he constantly mocked idol worship. Over time, he became well known in the area as the boy who ridiculed the idols. One day, while his father was busy working in the temple, Ibrahim, peace be upon him, decided to visit the temple. Inside, he saw the large statues that the people worshipped and prostrated before. Seeing this, he boldly asked them, "What are these statues to which you are so devoted?" In other words, what are these idols you spend so much time worshipping? The people replied, "We found our forefathers worshipping them." They justified their actions by saying that their ancestors worshipped these idols, and so they followed in their footsteps. Ibrahim, peace be upon him, refuted them with a powerful statement. "Indeed, you and your forefathers are in manifest error." He openly declared that both they and their ancestors were in clear misguidance. At this, the people were taken aback. They thought Ibrahim was simply mocking them again, so they sarcastically said to him, "Have you come to us with the truth, or are you just playing around?" They questioned whether he was serious about his claims, or just making fun of them as he often did. So they asked him, "Are you serious about what you're saying? Is this truly your belief, or are you just mocking us as usual, Ibrahim?" At that moment, Ibrahim, peace be upon him, declared a statement that completely changed their perception of him. "Rather, your Lord is the Lord of the heavens and the earth, who created them, and I am one of those who testify to this truth." With this, Ibrahim, peace be upon him, boldly proclaimed his belief that Allah alone is the creator of the heavens and the earth, and he was a witness to the majesty of this creation. This was his first clear declaration rejecting the worship of idols, and showing that his ridicule of their idols came from his unshakable faith in the one true God. At this point, the debate between Ibrahim, peace be upon him, and his people became intense, even though he was still just a young man. Ibrahim eventually left the temple, his heart filled with sadness and anger, because he saw how deeply his people were lost in ignorance and misguidance. After their worship concluded, the people dispersed and returned home. A short while later, some young men approached Ibrahim, peace be upon him, and said, "O Ibrahim, we are going to a religious festival outside the city. Come with us. Let's have some fun, enjoy ourselves, and take a break from work." They were trying to invite Ibrahim, peace be upon him, to their celebration, hoping that he would join them and perhaps change his mind about the idols. However, Ibrahim, peace be upon him, showed no interest in their invitation, as his heart was already focused on a greater plan. Ibrahim, peace be upon him, realized that this invitation to the festival was a golden opportunity, a chance to execute his plan. He looked toward the stars, as if deep in thought, weighing his options. Then he made his decision and said to his people, "Indeed, I am sick." Pretending to be unwell, he managed to convince them. They said to one another, "Leave him. He seems truly ill. We don't want to catch anything from him." Satisfied, they left him behind and went to their festival without him. Once alone, Ibrahim knew that the moment had come. He returned home, grabbed an axe, and made his way to the grand temple where the idols were kept. Entering the temple, Ibrahim, peace be upon him, saw the idols lined up, appearing majestic yet utterly powerless. He noticed the food and wealth placed before them as offerings. Angered and filled with zeal for the oneness of Allah, Ibrahim called out to the lifeless idols, "Why do you not eat? This food has been left here for you, yet it remains untouched. Why do you not speak?" His words were filled with disdain for the ignorance and delusion of his people. He could no longer bear the sight of these idols being worshipped, while the truth of Allah remained ignored. In a moment of righteous fury, Ibrahim, peace be upon him, raised the axe and began smashing the idols. So he turned upon them, striking with his right hand. One by one he shattered the idols, reducing them to fragments and rubble. Thus he made them into pieces, except for the largest idol, which he left untouched. Ibrahim, peace be upon him, left the largest idol intact, hanging the axe around its neck as if pointing to the culprit. Then he departed, leaving the shattered remains of the idols behind. When the people returned from their festival, they entered the temple and were shocked by what they saw. Their idols, which they worshipped and revered, were now reduced to rubble, except for the largest one, which stood tall with the axe hanging around its neck. Anger surged through them, and they cried out, "Who has done this to our gods?" Truly, he is among the wrongdoers. Some among them spoke up. "We heard a young man speaking ill of them. He is called Ibrahim." The crowd agreed. "It must be that young man, Ibrahim. No one else would dare mock our gods." They decided, "Bring him before the people so they may witness what he has done." A group of them set out to find Ibrahim, peace be upon him, furious and determined. When they found him, they dragged him to the temple, where a crowd had already gathered. Confronting him, they demanded, "Did you do this to our gods, O Ibrahim?" Ibrahim, peace be upon him, replied, "Rather, the largest of them did it. The one you see with the axe hanging on its shoulder. Ask them if they can speak." This response left them stunned, unable to reply immediately. They turned to one another and said, "Indeed, it is you who are the wrongdoers." They began to argue among themselves, trying to figure out how to respond. One of them finally said, "You know well that these idols cannot speak." Ibrahim, peace be upon him, seized the opportunity and said, "So you worship instead of Allah that which cannot benefit or harm you in any way? Shame on you and on what you worship besides Allah. Do you not have any sense?" He continued to confront them, using clear and powerful arguments to dismantle their beliefs, revealing the futility of idol worship. As their arguments weakened further, and they found themselves unable to refute him, one of them exclaimed, "Burn him. Let us rid ourselves of him this way." The others agreed, resorting to violence out of desperation. They planned to burn Ibrahim, peace be upon him. They said, "Build for him a great structure and throw him into the blazing fire." Determined to punish him severely and erase his presence, they ordered the construction of a massive pyre to burn him alive. Subhanallah, those with weak arguments always resort to violence, insults, or even murder when they fail to counter with logic. The people began to execute their plan, declaring, "We will throw him into the fire as punishment for what he did to our gods." They gathered an immense amount of wood and kindled a fire so massive that it roared with unprecedented intensity. The flames reached high into the sky, their heat felt from afar. They looked at Ibrahim, peace be upon him, expecting to see fear in his eyes, believing they had trapped him in a fatal situation with no escape. But Ibrahim's face was radiant with faith, shining with calmness and absolute trust in Allah. He said to them firmly, "Indeed, I am going to my Lord. He will guide me. You may burn my body in your fire, but my soul will ascend to Allah, the Most High. O my Lord, grant me a place among the righteous." These words struck their hearts deeply, leaving them in shock at his unwavering conviction and courage. However, their anger only grew, and they shouted, "Do not rush the punishment. Let us make the fire even greater." They intensified the flames, making the fire larger and fiercer, then prepared to throw Ibrahim, peace be upon him, into the inferno. We've now reached the critical moment. The people gathered an enormous amount of wood, as if they wanted to create an eternal blaze. They meticulously ensured that the fire was immense, rivaling the sun's intensity at midday. They wanted to guarantee that Ibrahim, peace be upon him, would not survive it. They lit the fire until the flames roared into the sky, visible from miles away. They seized Ibrahim, peace be upon him, fully prepared to throw him into this inferno. Picture the scene: the enraged crowd, the blistering heat filling the air, and Ibrahim standing firm and faithful, ready to face his fate. But do you know what happened next? Who helped them ignite the fire? All of this will be revealed in the upcoming episodes, where we'll dive into incredible details that you could never have imagined. For now, we've reached the end of today's part of the story of Prophet Ibrahim. Peace be upon him. We'll see you in the next episodes, God willing, with even more amazing details and events. Subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Remember, by subscribing and liking this video, you're helping to spread beneficial knowledge. Imagine how much good you could be a part of just by sharing one small click. Don't miss the chance to be part of this reward. May it weigh heavily on your scale of good deeds. So, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Let's continue this journey together.